We're going to move on now to our last session before the coffee break. I'm joined by Bernard, who's going to do the bulk of this session.
Good morning.
But before we get on to that, I'm just going to give a little bit of background to what the idea behind the Metabase repository is, where it's come from, and what we hope to achieve with it. So just first of all, to mention, for those that don't know, Metabase is an open source analytics platform that we've been supporting at PTFS Europe now for a number of years. And there are quite a number of customers that are using Metabase. And certainly many of our implementations that we have underway at the moment, we're implementing Metabase as part of those implementations. One of the customers that's been using Metabase for quite a long time is the City of Glasgow College as part of the Glasgow Colleges group. And they implemented Metabase back in 2019. And it was George Harkins and Penny Robertson who came to us after last year's customer day with the idea of creating a Metabase repository that could do a number of things. First of all, this repository could be populated by an anonymized set of data so that the data could be accessed by anyone without worries about anonymity, about data protection and so on. It could be a place for users of Metabase to share reports that they've created, to share dashboards that they find useful in their organizations. And also to see what other people are doing and pick up and borrow and use other people's reports that they're sharing with the group, with the repository, and use them in their libraries. And it's also a sort of safe space to try out new queries and experiment on some safe data. And Bernard will perhaps say more about how we're looking after that data and uploading it and anonymizing it and so on. So the idea will be that the repository will be a completely separate to customers, separate instance of Metabase, hosted free by PTFS Europe. And Glasgow Colleges Library Group are kindly providing us the source data, which is what we're going to be using to then create the anonymized data set. And then sort of in tandem with the repository, we're also establishing a Metabase User Group, which will be chaired by George of Glasgow. And we'll meet, we've not really determined the frequency, but maybe a couple of times a year. And that's an opportunity for users to actually discuss how they're using the repository, how they're using Metabase, and anything else relating to Metabase and the use of the system with the library management system. So I'm going to just hand over to Bernard now to take over.
Okay, thank you. So basically what we're trying to do here is we've created a repository. We've put a few things in to get us started, but in fact, the shape of how it develops in the future is very much something to be decided by the user group itself. So one of the first things I did was went straight over to the Koha reports wiki and take a few of the reports from there and plonk them into Metabase just to get them running. So sort of a start of a repository. And I also added some of the reports that we had done for customers, some of the more complex ones, because obviously this is very much the idea of, you know, we create the report once and then a whole load of people can use it rather than doing the same thing again and again, which is rather inefficient. So I'm going to show you a few things. I'm just going to break out of the PowerPoint to show you the actual real thing. Move these controls out of the way, that's right. So here we go. This is the repository itself. At the moment, I'm logged in as more of a sort of administrative level where I've been setting things up. So it looks very much like most Metabase repositories that you will have been used to. But down here, I've created some new collections. So we've got the concept of having different collections for different sectors. So academic libraries, health libraries, public libraries, and of course, all these can be added to. So one of the first things I thought may be useful is to be able to produce the reports that organizations have to do every year. So for academic libraries, for example, that's the SCONL reports. So I've created a dashboard for academic libraries, which is called SCONL Statistics. And there you can see that. At the moment, not a lot of data in it, but the idea is that you could potentially have, you know, each university might take care of one or two of these questions each year, because the criteria does change from year to year, rather than every university having to write all of the queries for all of the questions every year. And then what you would be able to do, because this is sitting on top of the anonymized data for Glasgow City, you can see it on here, but you would then be able to take the various things across to your own Metabase. So for example, if I was to go into one of the queries on this dashboard, 3.1 for example, and when I open editor, I can see the MySQL that is behind that. And all I have to do is literally copy and paste that and put that in my own local Metabase. And then that should mean you can run your SCONL question 3.1 and it's all done. So in terms of other sectors, the public libraries, for example, they use the CITFA standard. Whoops. Okay, should use the CITFA standard. That's not showing today for some reason. I'll show you about that in a minute. And health libraries, they may have a standard as well that I'm not aware of. So you get the idea. And the way this can be configured when it's being configured or correctly, and we've probably tested it, is that the customers, when you sign up as a customer, and hopefully George will set you up on here, it means that you'll have a slightly different view. So here in this other browser that I've just gone to, I've got myself logged in as a customer, and I've been set up using the collections function to only have access to the academic libraries collection, because, for example, I'm working in an academic library, because I don't necessarily want to see the public library ones. But I also have another collection here of general customer submitted queries. So this is where if you've written anything that you think may be of use to the community, you would be able to put it in here. And as before, you would be able to go into there, look at the SQL, take that and put it in your own system. So this is the sort of sharing area, if you like. And of course, you need to be able to write your questions here. So this might be the other way around. So you've written the question in your local Metabase. If you've used the custom method of querying, where you don't actually have to know anything about SQL, then you'll just have the builder, and you'll simply look at one against the other and copy the same things in from one to the other. On the other hand, if you've used the native queries sort of side of things, then you will just do select all from, just take your MySQL and you will put that straight into your system, sorry, from your system into this system, and then it will be shared with the whole community. So as I say, this is very much a starting point, just having a bit of a look at the data that's in here. We have got the anonymized data at the moment in this Koha database is from Glasgow City. So just to, we basically built a specification in conjunction with Glasgow as to how they would like to have their data anonymized, and that's what we've produced in here. And that data will get refreshed probably every 2 or 3 months. And the idea behind that is that we wanted you to be able to run reports on data that was reasonably current. That's obviously more important in terms of current loans and, if you're running dates that like last month or whatever. So we just wanted to be able to refresh the data like that. So we'll be taking on that task. Yeah, I think that's probably about it. Let's see if I've got any more things on here that I've missed. Yes, I've done the view from the customer side. So it uses the collections functionality, which if you've had your training, you'll know about in the admin side, where we can restrict people to particular collections when you set them up as users. So it's all fairly simple to set up. So yeah, that's a brief sort of zip through that, but I'm very happy to take any questions if there are any. Nope. Looks like that's that then. Okay, so yeah, very much looking forward to seeing this in action. We will certainly be continuing to submit our queries if a customer comes and asks for something and it's been particularly, taken us some time to do it, and we will put it on here so that you can pick these up, and hopefully this is a much more efficient use of everybody's time. So thank you for listening, and we're now going to be taking a short break, and we'll be back at 11:45 after coffee.